Hello, John.
Hello, Oliver.
Today we're going to talk about Julie. Julie is your wife, and Julie has died recently, and she's gone to heaven.
That's right, Oliver, and because I certainly say prayers for her, and that's one of the duties that you have to say a prayer for people that died, especially your wife. Now,
You have some photos there you're going to show
I
us.
have, and this is one, and you see, it was taken in 1990 when we were in France. We were there in July. We had exchanged houses with a couple in a place called Saint Lula-Forêt, and it was that hot that we looked at the map, and I was looking to see where there was a river nearby because we used a car, French car, and so I saw there was a river called Oise, Wazi it was pronounced. So we went to that place, and it turned out it was where Van Gogh, it was the 100th anniversary, 1990, of his death in Auvers-sur-Oise. So we learned a lot about Van Gogh, and that's the house that he lived in, which was over a pub, or they don't call it a pub, over a bistro, but it would have been, I'd say, fairly noisy, and he was upstairs, and the heat, when we were there, was running to 40 degrees. It was absolutely dreadful. And so he was out painting from 6 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the evening. Now, they say that he shot himself, but I believe there was a father and son out shooting, and he might have been accidentally injured in the process, which I believe that is the truth. And because of his probably suffering from sunstroke, being out from that hour of the morning, 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the evening, and then staying in a bistro where there would have been noise underneath and probably be very warm up there. So he died 2 days afterwards in that, and that's where he lived, and that's myself and Julie pictured outside it that time. This is one where we had a house in Spain that we bought, and we sold it then in 2009, and it was a bungalow, but it was a quad, and you could park a car there, and we had a little car then, so we were able to go around and visit places. This is another one of Julie. We were down in Boyle, County Roscommon, where I grew up from about 8.5 years of age until 18, and it was a Lough Key, which is known as the Killarney of the West. It's supposed to have 32 islands, and that's Julie rowing a boat. She hadn't rowed a boat before, but she took to it like a duck to water, and I didn't think she could be trusted, but she did row. And
what did you say? It has 32?
32 islands, supposed to be one for each county in Ireland.
Oh well.
But I don't know whether they were suffering from the effects of too much alcohol. I don't think there was 32 islands, but there's a lot of islands. And we were going across in the boat, rowing to Castle Island, where the McDermotts had a castle in the 14th, 15th century, and it was there for protection. There's Julie. We're up the mountains in County Wicklow when we lived near Greystones, and in Bray for that matter. There's the garden that we had in Greystones, near Greystones. It wasn't quite in Greystones, and that's an example of her green fingers. She was marvellous with flowers. Anything she touched seemed to grow, and there was nothing on that trellis, but before you could say Jack Robinson, she had flowers growing up, and it was a lovely sight. There she is when we were in France, and I think a place called Gourag, where we used to have have picnics and all the rest of it. It was a lovely spot. I had a van that I used to bring to France. I've no longer got that van, I sold it, but used to bring it to France because we were able to bring plenty of stuff, and when we were staying in maybe hotels on the way, there's budget hotels there which only cost about 32 euros for 2 people, room only, and you could have your breakfast for 6 euros in the morning, continental breakfast, so it was quite good. But we used to be able to do for ourselves because we had the various plugs and sockets that we could buy our own stuff, so we were very capable of doing it ourselves. So that was in France, and there's the van and there's the part of the scenery. And here's another one of the place we stayed in that particular year. There was walks there from the house, just you'd only leave the house and you could go for an hour's walk. And really, France is very well endowed with walks. It's nothing unusual for any small village to have marvellous walks. You'd never be stuck. And you'd hear the cuckoo. That time we used to hear the cuckoo. You hear it in France a lot. And there's another part of the place that we stayed in. You can see how rural it is. And another similar picture of the place we were actually staying in that place.
You'd almost think that was Ireland.
You would. It has very similarities, but it's actually because it's a big country and it's part of the policies of the leaders in that country going back maybe 100 years was to provide walks for people in every town and village in the country, which they have. And really it's a great place for that type of thing. And the quietness and the solitude is just something to be desired. And France is famous for that because they don't seem to have a nightlife as such. They might dine out until about 8:30 or 9. You won't get into a restaurant in France if you don't go there by 7 o'clock, because they won't take you at 8 o'clock. They close at 9. So everything closes at about that time. So hence, even if you're living in a town, which we did live in, you could have a night's sleep very early, 10 o'clock or so, because there was no noise knocking about at all. They don't have a nightlife. That's at the seaside there in a place called Bourgenay, which was near a place called Pyro where we stayed, and we swam there. That's what we did. And there's a restaurant that was near that beach as well, where you could have tea or coffee, mostly coffee, and you could have what they call crepes, which are pancakes, and lovely and quite reasonable. You know, you weren't robbed, even though it was beside the seaside there where we used to swim. There's Julie between Bray and Greystones, where we used to go for walks, and the sea is behind her. And there she is in Drummond, County Leitrim, where they have reinstated the old train, what they used to call the puffer train, where smoke comes out of the
chimney.
The chimney. And it's going along. So I remember travelling on those trains. Indeed, I remember travelling on what they call a narrow gauge up in Donegal one time when I was in the FCA, and travelled from Bundorn or no Ballyshannon up to Donegal with a friend who had an aunt living in a place called Inver, and we spent the weekend there at one time when I was in the FCA, because we used to go into camp and you got money after, you got about £13, which is a lot of money at that time in the late 50s. So that's Julie. And now there's another little article about Julie that was printed in the an obituary in the Meath Chronicle, which is a local paper supplied to all the people in Meath, or the news agents, and given news about local events that you don't get anywhere else. And when my dear wife Julie died in the 24th of July this year, there was obituary notice about her in the newspaper, in the Irish Independent, and then in the local websites, and RIP.ie, and they sent me a notice which was free, a form that I could say something about Julie, which I did. And so before her month's mind, which occurred on the 19th of August, the week that week, the Wednesday before that, this obituary notice come out about Julie, and I'll read it if I may.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
The late Julie, and in brackets Sheila Malone, because when she went to the national school, Irish was being taught compulsorily, which it still is, I think. And so her name was changed from Julie to Sheila, and her family called her Sheila for the rest of her life, even though Julie was her proper name. So I'll read a little article. Julie Malone, Oldcastle, that's where we were living. The regretted death occurred on the 24th of July last of Julie Sheila Rogers, or Julie Sheila Malone, railway Liss, Oldcastle, at her residence, aged 76. Now, she didn't look 76. She always looked, as a matter of fact, one time in Bray, a customer that I had, because I was in the life insurance business, and met us down the seafront, and she was a very nice customer, and she said, "Hello, John, and is this your daughter?" So I reminded her for a long time afterwards that perhaps you need glasses. You know, I didn't think it was that ancient by comparison, but that was a compliment to Julie. A native of Ahermore, Kilmainham Wood, she was born Julie Teresa Rogers. She and her husband John lived in Oldcastle for the past 16 years. She grew up on a farm with many animals and chickens and hens and other turkeys and pigs and cattle, and as a result was kind to all animals. As a matter of fact, she used to bring oats at Christmas, extra oats, unbeknownst to her mother and her other sisters and brothers, down to the cattle and give them extra oats for Christmas. That was a very good thing, and she did that occasionally as well. And she had a chicken call, and she called her Teresa, and that chicken used to come to her, or that hen used to come to her particularly, and she gave her a little extra food.
Why did she call the hen Teresa?
Well, she seemed to be that way, putting names on animals. She had that sort of...
Was it a kind of a holy thing, or like Mother Teresa?
No, well, that was her name, was Teresa, but she called me, I think she was speckled or something, whatever it was about the hen, she called her Teresa.
Very good.
And anyway, she had that story. There was also an orchard and potato and vegetable gardens. As a matter of fact, a lot of the farms then would have had a couple of acres devoted to vegetables, because a lot of the potatoes, especially the small ones, was used for the pigs, for their food, and then the bigger ones was for the family. So they'd have a lot of potatoes, and other farmers would, and they used to help one another. So
they used to also give turnips to the cows.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they called them something else. There's another name that they call them for cows, because that's what they did, especially in the winter.
Yeah, I think called a mangler.
That's
right. He used to wind it around.
They were called mangoes.
Were mangoes? Is what it was. Yeah.
They were actually looked like turnips to me.
Yeah, yeah.
That's correct. Well, they would have had that, and so there was 2 acres, maybe more, in vegetables, and the brothers used to look after that. And one brother in particular, Paddy, developed that. He was walking outside the farm, and then in the evening time he spent his time at that. And so did a lot of farmers, regretfully, and of course any excess produce that they have to supply the local shop, and got paid. So everything was locally produced, and that's gone now. You won't see, matter of fact, you'll see very few farmers with planting vegetables like what they did. And also you don't see many chickens and fowl around farms as you used to, and orchards and all this. So I think since the advent of the supermarkets, to the destruction of the way of life of farmers, there's a lot of negativity that are attached to this so-called progress. By the way, in France, they're still using potatoes and vegetables. In farmers are still planting vegetables and things like that. And also even families, if they have any bit of a garden at all, they have them in vegetables and that kind of thing. So that tradition is still going on there, even though it's a wealthy country and a big country, but they have that. Anyways, I'll just read the rest of it. And she also remembers, as I say, picking the potatoes and that, and bringing water from the well. Now, when she was bringing the water from the well, 2 buckets, she would have been only about 8 or 9, so children had to sort of do a lot of hard work, and she would have had to go down a long field or that and bring up the water. But she had a sister Rose that was up at the top, And when she come up with the water, Rose took the water off and brought her into the mother and made out that she was after bringing it up. And when Julie would point out that she, the mother would say, so she was a bit, she had favours the mother, because her father died when they were young in 1946, and he was a great provider. He was known as, his name was Pat the thrashing mill, because he had thrashing mills.
What's a thrashing mill?
Well, it used to have to go to farmers and save the corn, because most farmers planted corn and that type of thing in their farms. Not like now, you don't see it only in certain parts, but they used to, nearly all farmers planted corn for the animals. So the thrashing mill would have to go around and there was a big machine go around and harvest that, the corn. So he would have been very busy, and he was a great provider, so much so that during the Second World War he managed to purchase 2 big chests of tea. He was a provider, and so during the war they were never short of tea. When there was tea was rationed, and the tea that you got was not really tea at all, it was really terrible. So there was a shortage of all sorts of basic items, but he was prudent enough to have 2 big flasks of tea. So they had enough tea for the whole war.
Mm-hmm.
That's the sort. But then he died in 1946 with diphtheria,
Mm-hmm.
which apparently he contracted after visiting some farm where a child had died from diphtheria, even though he was an adult. Anyway, that's that. But she remembers going to Mass on a horse and trap as well.
Very nice.
And they used to have to go the long way around, because where they lived there was a steep hill, so the poor horse couldn't go down there, so they went the long way around. And oftentimes it's the shortest way home. So she went to national school in Kilmaine and Wood, and then to technical school in Nobber, a 5-mile cycle away, uphill by the way, and then downhill when you're coming back. Though she lived in Dublin for most of her life, and in Bray and Greystones, County Wicklow, her heart was always in Kilmaine and Wood, where she was from. Funny, isn't it, that your heart goes back to where you were from. Even in my case, although I was in 2 places really.
You've been in a lot of places, John.
Old County Dublin, and I hated leaving that. But then we went down to Boyle, Kendore's Common. The father was a garden transfer down there, and quite frankly, I got to love Boyle. I have something to say about that later on. It was known as the Killarney of the West because of Lough Key. I think I mentioned it in regard to the photographs there. Her heart was always good. She loved the sea, which she did. She loved the water because she had been born inland. She loved it more than I did, although I was born beside the sea. She loved the sea and enjoyed swimming at Bray, and wherever we happened to be, if the sea was there and didn't matter whether it was cold or not, in we got for the swim. Because it was considered salt water was good for you, good for the health. That's why you have a lot of nursing homes at the seaside. Bray was full of nursing homes because it was supposed to be good for the patients that was there.
Never knew that.
Aye, that's right.
But they wouldn't be swimming in it, obviously.
Oh, they wouldn't. No. Well, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't.
Got you off track there, John, sorry.
Yes, well, we always get off track when we're discussing olden times. And well, when I say olden times, this is olden times because this is what Julie would have told me, and this is what I knew about her, and then her experience with me. And she loved walking also, which I loved. And she was green-fingered, and she loved gardening, and her flowers and shrubs were her delight, which I showed there earlier. She was a great companion to her husband John, and a great help in his business, which she was, because she did promotions, and she sometimes established a product in some of these supermarkets we were in, which was, by the way, independent supermarkets. None of the monopolies that we have are they. You'd have to pay them to get listed.
This is the dog food business that you started.
Correct. And she was a good help down there. We used to just give 10p off, and she sold more stuff. And during the couple of days she was doing it, she sold maybe 14 or 15 cases. And one event in some store she was in, the people normally were going on holiday normally bought chum, which is an expensive one, but our product, Spot, was also expensive. It was priced at 60 cents, just as expensive as chum. But bought chum, and but she had done a job on them and so they were not sure. So she saw them looking at the next aisle through the tins that was on the shelf over it. So they come around with about half a dozen or maybe a dozen tins at a spot because they were going on holidays and somebody was looking after the dog, so they bought a spot.
Very
So
good.
that's how good she was. That's just a little aside, it's not in this. She survived. Oh, and by the way, her smile, she had a lovely smile and lit up a room wherever she went. She had that gift.
I noticed that actually down in Navan.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
she had that gift. And it's one that I didn't have it myself to the same extent because, but her smile was noticed. Now, she survived by her husband John. In Ireland by sisters Peggy and Philomena, brother Paddy, he's on the farm. And in the USA by sisters Mary and Rose and brother Matty. Nieces, nephews, relatives and many friends in Oldcastle and Kilmainham Wood. The funeral took place from the Church of the Sacred Heart, which is a name I'm very fond of by the way, Kilmainham Wood, to the adjoining cemetery celebrated by Father John Cooley, parish priest. He's been transferred now to Coot Hill in County Cavan. I sympathise with him on that because it's after being in a parish for 10 or 11 years you become familiar with it, but sometimes curious are shifted when they're really settling in, when they're often feel sorry leaving the place that they've been in. Parish priest, and also then by family friends of my wife's sisters, Father John Horton and Father John McMahon, all Johns by the way, and Father Seamus Cassidy, who was stationed in Dublin as a priest, but he was a native of Kilmainham Wood, and he went to school with my wife Sheila in the National School in Hull, so I remembered her. A month's memory mass has taken place on Sunday the 19th of August at 11:15 in the Church of the Sacred Heart, Kilmainham Wood. So that was the little, that was the message, that was the obituary about Julie, and I think I'm very grateful to the Meath Chronicle for printing that.
John, that was a lovely tribute to Julie.
Well, thank you very much, and she deserved it.
Thank you.